Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Business of Calgary podcast, powered by Sonic Coaching. I'm your host, Oliver Basner. And I'm pleased to be here with Heather and Michael Culbert, who recently were inducted into the Alberta Business Hall of Fame. They've been called a power couple that have shaped Canada's energy sector. They've also spent a great deal of time on several significant Calgary philanthropic initiatives. Mike, Heather, welcome to the show. And first of all, congratulations on being inducted into the Business Hall of Fame and also for being on the cover of the September 2025 issue of Business in Calgary magazine.
Thank you. Yeah, we're very pleased to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. It's a real privilege.
Yeah, no, we're thrilled to have recognition like this. It's just an absolute honor to be in the company of so many amazing people in this province. So thanks so much to JA.
Wonderful. Well, I'm going to jump right in. So let's start right at the beginning. Mike, how did the two of you meet?
Well, we met when we were quite young, and as it turned out, we were both working summer jobs, and I went into the dental office on a Saturday morning to have some dental work done, and lo and behold, the dental assistant was Heather. So we sort of saw each other and thought, okay, this is pretty good. And then we've got a couple versions to the story. The cleaner version is that we then went on to date after that, and the other version with some little wine involved is a little more exciting. So, but we'll save that for another day.
Awesome. Oh, that's great. So I see he's also got great teeth. Is that because of you, Heather?
Well, of course. And one of the things I believe that I helped Mike with along the way is how to close a deal, because it was me that actually came to him and to get us to kind of take it to the next step, saying, "How are your teeth?" So it's an interesting. It actually is an interesting story.
Good opening line. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, talk about openers. That was how we started, kind of then getting to know each other.
Well, there's a
better.
tip for our listeners, right? Heather, last year you were named 2024 Calgarian of the Year. You were described as persistent, resilient, and passionate. I'm curious, how did you become so resilient? And then the other thing is, what would you say to those young leaders out there who are going through a tough time right now? How did you get through the tough times? What do you say to them?
Yeah, you know, certainly being awarded the Calgarian of the Year last year was a huge privilege and totally unexpected, by the way. You know, you do these things in life because you want to give back and you want to make a greater community, and so to be recognized for that was just an amazing privilege. And so the resilient part comes through, you know, many years as being throughout my career, being the only female in the room because my background is technology. And so just having the opportunity to work with various leadership teams and learning, you know, the best way to get people on side and how to move forward with, you know, as a team and with true leadership. And so the resilience comes through just, you know, trial and error, right? You try something, it works, you know, and when it doesn't work, you get back up and you do it again. And so, you know, I had the huge opportunity in my career to be able to kind of be in some scenarios that really took me to the edge of leadership and really helped me define what I was capable of doing, which gave me a lot of confidence. So the resilience piece really is all about, you know, bouncing back and pushing through when you have to. And I guess my advice to junior leaders would be, you know, to number one, embrace change. Really work hard, you know, with people on your reputation and your communication style and your leadership style, and show them who you really are. Show confidence. And when things happen, bounce back.
Yes.
And try it again and keep going. So, you know, it's not easy, but it can be very rewarding, very, very rewarding.
And I'm guessing just based on what you're saying, I mean, success is not a straight line. It looks like success is a straight line, but there was lots of failures along the way, I'm sure.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely. It was, again, hills and valleys and a few mountains in between. But again, you don't give up and you are constantly looking at ways to improve. And and I was really fortunate because I surrounded myself with people that helped give me that feedback and motivate me and keep me moving forward. So a lot of it had to do with the people that were in my tribe, Mike and our family included, to kind of keep you going. So it's really important. Yeah.
Thank you. You mentioned leadership a little bit. You've both of you have held senior positions in the energy sector. You've served and continue to serve on for-profit, nonprofit boards. In your opinion, what makes a great leader? Mike?
Well, I think the epitome of a great leader that I've really tried to emulate in a lot of cases starts with ethics and having, solid background of, the right beliefs, the beliefs that you're there doing the job. It's not all about you. It's a team event, and really having business ethics where you're doing things on the up and up and moving forward. So I think that when I look at it, you see leaders over years, and you see how people have different styles, and you look and you say, okay, well that worked in this situation, this worked in this situation, and you sort of evolve as you go along to what works for you. As Heather said, okay, you get up and you try it again and go a different direction. So I think the big thing is really just following your own or building your own style and determining what works for you, but at the same time understanding that it's not you that has to do the whole thing. It's the whole team that steps up, and so empowering people and letting people the expertise within their particular discipline, they're the ones that are the experts. Let them lead those aspects.
Yeah, excellent. Anything you want to add from your perspective, Heather?
No, I think
that was a great answer.
Mike really captured it well. I would say just surround yourself with smarter people than you. I mean, honestly, like Mike was referring to the expertise piece, but don't be afraid to not know everything, right? As a good, solid leader surrounds himself with people that know more than they do. And your leadership is meant to coordinate those efforts. It's not meant to know all the answers. So yeah, that would be the only thing.
Love it. Great answers from both of you. Thank you. Heather, you're the co-founder of Access Connect, which supports women on their journey towards leadership. You're also the co-founder of Board Ready Women, and I've been to a couple of meetings. And so, Board Ready Women supports women who are, looking to obtain board positions. How have the opportunities for women in leadership changed from when you started?
Well, I would like to say it's very different, but it's not as different as I would like it to be, which is why we started Board Ready Women and Access Connects. Honestly, one of the reasons we started Board Ready Women was because we just saw so much talent in our city that just wasn't known by a lot of organizations in the city looking for board members. And so we really wanted to profile that talent and show people that we had the expertise right here in our city, because the numbers were low, quite frankly. In 2018, 12% of board members in Alberta on Alberta Stock Exchange were women, and that just to me was not acceptable.
Right.
And so that's one of the reasons that we started this. Well, like today, that number is 23%, which we'd love to take full credit for, but we know full well that all sorts of things have happened. We've created that awareness. A lot of institutions have said, we want more diverse thinking on boards, and people recognize the value of diverse thinking on boards. And so that's all coming to fruition, and I really do believe that we're going to have much better decision making as a result. And Access Connects came together as a result of basically trying to feed that leadership pipeline to get more women on boards and to have more women at decision making tables. And so we really wanted to support corporate Calgary in their leadership efforts in order to get more women in those leadership roles, in those decision-making roles. And so our role is to, number one, profile those amazing women that we have in the city through doing a Calgary Influential Women in Business Awards every year. And we also profile one amazing man, because we need male champions in order to make this all happen. And so by profiling, we believe that gives people the inspiration to know if you can see it, you can be it, right? And so we really believed that was a true value proposition we could have. Secondly, we do leadership forums annually where we bring in some fantastic speakers from all over the place, a lot of Canadians as well as Americans. We've even had a few international speakers. And we, again, like to bring women and men together, and it's all about networking. So whether it's Board Ready Women or Access Connects, we believe the most valuable part of this whole thing is creating a larger network so that you have access to more opportunities, whether it be board or just meeting other women and men in similar positions to give you those types of
Right.
advice along the way. So it's really about networking and providing opportunities for people to get together and learn more about leadership in a kind of a less theoretical way, more practical, in more practical terms. So yeah, that's what we do.
Excellent. Well, and I was, as I said, I was in a couple of the meetings, and I wasn't sure what to expect my first meeting. I was one of 4 males in the room, and was made to feel quite welcome. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yes, it's all about being inclusive.
Yeah, you said networking and growing your network. I remember a CEO years ago saying to me that he really believed that your network equaled the size of your net worth. And so it sounds like you've got some great opportunities here, especially for women, to actually create those networks.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. Not only monetarily, but also from an in-depth perspective of what your opportunities look like and what your challenges can be, and what the the things that you can do to make a difference, right? So your net worth also from a personal perspective. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing that. So Mike, tell us a little bit. I mean, you've got an extensive background in the energy sector, and so tell us a little bit. What do you see for the future of energy in Alberta, in Calgary, and in the world?
Yeah, well, I think we're quite fortunate in Canada, in Western Canada, to have the resources we do. The Montney shale, gas shale liquids plays are second to none in the world, really, as far as the size goes, and scope and scale. Oil sands, very similar, great resource, and we've determined many over the decades how to make it economic and that sort of thing. So our pipeline infrastructure is very good. We know it all leads to the U.S. more or less currently, but over time we're hoping that new pipelines can get built to the West Coast, both for natural gas and for crude oil. And so I think that as far as the demand for fossil fuels go, it's here for decades, and there'll be transition. And what we're seeing is that there's other efficient ways of creating energy. And in a lot of cases, you still need fossil fuels to be either that backup or that peaking supply. So, it all fits together, I think. So, when I look at the energy sector in Canada, I see that there's still a very bright future. There's been a lot of consolidation in the industry, which has actually been healthy because balance sheets are in best condition that they've been in for probably all of my career. And the technology that's being advanced on these plays is just unbelievable how the economics continue to improve and that sort of thing. So the big thing is, and I spent the past decade of my career really sort of being an advocate for export. Let's build LNG facilities. Right. Let's get ourselves on the world stage. Let's get away from having the U.S. as our sole market. Let's do that. So LNG Canada is up and running. And hopefully there'll be additions to phase 2 coming as far as an announcement soon. Cedar LNG and wood fiber are being engineered and actually constructed, and so I think we're in a very good position to move forward. And for the youth that kind of look at the oil sector as a job opportunity, it's one of those things where you kind of look at it and say, well, this is a mature industry. Is there really going to be enough run room for my career? But and my own advice to my kids was, there will be, and it's going to be an evolution, and there's going to be transformation, but you just grow with that. You change with that industry. And the beauty of the oil and gas sector is that, companies are well situated to continue to train their people to help them grow their careers and really, change and evolve as time goes on and is required to.
Yeah, and we're finally talking to Germany, for instance, about LNG and being able to export. So
yeah, lo and behold, there's an economic case for that.
Go figure, right? You're both committed to giving back. Why is that so important to both of you?
Well, I mean, we live in this amazing city, and this city has been very good to us. And, it's always been part of our philosophy, and that when we want to see something be better, you've got to be a part of making it better, right? And so, it started back in the days of and Mike talked about this, which was, back in the early days of United Way when we were in corporate Calgary, we would give gifts, appropriately depending, based on our
Right.
age and stage. But regardless, it doesn't matter how much. It's the idea of, if you can't give the money, then you also can give your time. And then that just expanded over the years to the point where, I had the opportunity to sit on some nonprofit boards. And so United Way became a very big part of our lives as far as giving. And, same thing with Alberta Cancer Foundation. I was fortunate enough to sit on the board of Alberta Cancer Foundation and just see some of the areas where we really needed to improve our community, and one of them being the new cancer center,
Right.
which, as you know, I became very, very involved with about 14 years ago. And so, to see it built is just a huge inspiration, and knowing that, you can do it. If you put your mind to something, you actually can make it happen. It's not magic, it's hard work, it's persistence, it's resilience, it's all the things you talked about as far as leadership. And, we can all be a part of that, right? So, it doesn't really matter what age or stage of life you're in, you can make a difference in the community. So that's been really important, not just to Mike and I, but to our family as well. And so we've had both our daughter Lindsay and our son Sean part of our family philanthropy for years.
Right.
And so we know that then it will continue on, because they find it's very important to them too, right? So it's part of who we are and this family unit. Yes.
And it sounds like you must discuss it as a family and as a couple, even as to, where you're looking to give back and devote not only money, but also your time, right?
Yeah, we do. We talk about it as a family, and as Heather says, the kids have been very involved over the years, and really what we've been able to do is, as we've kind of moved from that stage of, payroll deductions on a monthly basis to the United Way, for example, we've been able to be a little more strategic about it, saying, okay, well, is there a new program that we can help support that, maybe isn't fully baked yet, but is there something that, we could put in some seed money and be able to get things going? And so United Way All In for Youth was one of those things, helping kids graduate high school and that type of thing. So it's a situation where by involving our kids and involving, direct interaction with the charities, we're able to do things probably a little better, because it's actually, we can push them and we can do things maybe before they're, quite ready for the main populace, but we're willing to sort of risk that capital, put it forward and get them going on things. So that's a real positive. And then I think, when you look at as Heather says, when you look at the city as a whole, there's things that you can, with your time, you can help shape as well. And just the understanding of what the challenges are, getting deeper into what the potential resolutions are, it makes a lot of difference in your life.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for what you do and how you've contributed to the city, and not only city, but obviously Alberta as well. So,
well, and I mean, that's the other hope, is that something like United Way All In for Youth has now become a systemic part of the public school system in high school. And that would never have happened otherwise, had it not been for, investing in, higher risk type of things that you don't really know what the outcome's going to be, right? But it's truly paid off. And so, yeah, no, it's been an amazing thing to see how you can also influence policy, right?
Right.
Yeah, so it's fantastic.
Excellent. I've got a couple of questions that I ask all my guests, so I'm going to jump into the first one now. So, start with you, Mike. What do you wish someone would have told you at the start of your journey? When you were that young, you got everything in front of you, and you're young, and you've got, maybe you're looking at education, or maybe your first leadership step. What advice would you give that person who's listening?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's I guess the type of if I look back that far, I kind of look and say, okay, well, if somebody had told me that this type of education or this type of opportunity in the oil and gas sector, would have got you on a trajectory where you can build a career and that sort of thing, you kind of look at it and that would have been very nice if somebody had laid out the pathway, but life isn't quite that simple. So, you got a good job, and you started out and at a junior level, and you work your way through that level, and if you're lucky and working hard, you get a promotion and those type of things. So there's no real path, I don't think, in anybody's career as to exactly where you're going to be. It's really, there's times you go up the hill and then you have to pivot and go back down the hill and turn another direction. So I think the biggest thing is really sort of being patient, persevere on these challenges, and help yourself move forward. As Heather said, when you're talking about networking and things like that, it's all about, again, having people that are supporting you, helping give you different types of points of view of various things. And those can be parents, those can be aunts and uncles and friends and that sort of thing. So it's really, build your network and be ready to pivot, because there's going to be a lot of pivots and changes of course here and there. So that's okay.
It wasn't a straight line?
But definitely not a straight line, yeah. Some big hills and some big valleys. And
How did you know when to pivot? I'm curious.
Well, I think, like if you sort of take you're in a position, let's say you're at a sort of a mid-level position in a company, and you're doing what you're doing, and really you look around the organization, and either the organization isn't growing, or maybe you're personally not growing in your position because, this is where it is, and there's either people blocking the next move, or there's, that's just sort of the end of this runway. Then you have to look at it and say, okay, well, am I happy in that position, or am I willing to go, do this, maybe get some additional education, take some specialty courses in something, pivot to another lane, and maybe that's a sideways step to another, and it could be within the same company, or it could be within a different company.
Right.
And, I sort of look at it, and I've had, people come and resign, and you're kind of upset with them that they're, you put all this effort into them, you've helped train them, you've helped them build their career, and then lo and behold, they're leaving the organization. And I was always disappointed, but at the same time, I always said to them, well, I'm glad you're taking control of your own career, because, the reality is you're the one that knows what's right for you, and if this wasn't the right position or this wasn't the right opportunity, then you are better off to move on. And so, I never sort of regretted somebody, disappointed, sure, but never, was regret that they were leaving on their own accord and that sort of thing. So, I think people need to make those choices and need to be, responsible for those changes, or those looking for the opportunities that suit them.
Excellent. And Heather, what about you? What would you say to that person at the start of their journey?
Well, I mean, Mike's covered it really well. I would totally agree with everything he said. But one of the things that I had to learn the hard way was patience. I tend to be, and I didn't realize this until I kind of got into my career, that I was very impatient. It's like, okay, I want to move on to the next project, or I want to see what's over the next hill. And a lot of times, people would say, well, you have to pay your dues, or you're not ready yet. And I would say, down the torpedoes, I'm ready to go. And so I would leave one organization to go get a better opportunity in another organization. And so I kind of did that for a few years, and then realized that one regret I did have was when I was at Suncor and had our children when I was working there, and they just gave me every opportunity in the world to progress through my career. They were so supportive, provided me all the leadership development I needed. But I wanted more. So even after that, I decided, well, I'm going to go out and do my own thing, which was great. But it also gave me a chance to kind of reflect on that and say, I could have done even more at Suncor. There was never a no. It was always, here's the next opportunity, here's the next opportunity. So knowing when to be patient and when not to be, and as Mike said, as soon as you can't pivot anymore, or you go and you have a discussion with your leader and there's no, opportunities for you that you kind of would like to see, then you have to make decisions. But sometimes you just have to be more patient than I was willing to be. So, a little bit of patience, and also embrace change, because man, oh man, it's coming at you 100 miles an hour. And so if you don't learn how to do that, and if you resist, then you're going to get left in the dust. And so those are the two things that I would say are certainly and always ethical. Integrity is your absolute number one asset. So no matter what, always do it with integrity. Always do it with your head held high. So I guess that's three things. But yeah, so patience, embrace change, and integrity. Your personal integrity.
Well, Mike, I heard you say ethics when we started our conversation, so you're both really aligned there around that whole piece. And I agree with you, because without ethics or integrity or being honorable, like, you have nothing.
Right.
Right? Your reputation is everything. So I really see personal development and professional development as one of the same. You know, what's been one of your favorite self-development books or tools? Mike, do you want to lead us off on that one?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, interestingly enough, and maybe it's sort of one of those things where what I've settled into is in a way, to keep up with the industry, and it's always very interesting to me. So every morning I get up and I've got 2 or 3 publications that come in at 6 o'clock in the morning, and so I have the opportunity to sit and have a coffee and look at those. And I looked at those, you know, types of things when I was working every day, and now that I'm retired or semi-retired, I do the same thing. And it really just gives me the ability to keep up with what's going on. And if there's something in particular that you know, okay, I'd be interested in, you know, learning some more about that, or, you know, what is that situation that's causing that to happen, or, you know, maybe it's today it always seems to be politically motivated. What's the thought behind this? You know, how do companies work through this? And what it really does is it just sort of keeps me involved in the current events, and like I say, they can be industry related that then fall into tax related, that fall into political related, and it just sort of keeps me intrigued with the whole thing. And then, you know, you know, a lot of times you're that much more informed at dinner conversations too, so it's not a bad thing.
Perfect. Great tip. Great advice. So well, what I heard is you start early in the morning as well, even though you're semi-retired.
Yeah, I do, but yeah, just a bad habit, I guess.
Heather, what about you? What's that tip you have?
Well, you know, I'm kind of more on the personal side of things and community. You know, although I do sit on a few for-profit boards, it's one of those things, right? I kind of rely on Mike for some of the details along the way.
Right.
But being on Export Development Canada, certainly seeing what's happening with government policy and developments in export certainly are something I try and keep up on. But it's more, to me, I'm just seeing more and more incidents and more focus on mental health these days. And so and I'm truly trying to understand what's going on. And so I've kind of delved into a few kind of, you know, people's stories about kind of the background of mental health concerns, and some of the things that are being done that are very innovative to kind of advance, hopefully take us out of this phase that hopefully it's a phase. I mean, mental health is always going on, but helping people, I think, is starting on the uprise, and the acknowledgement that it's there is on the uprise. So that's awesome. So again, just kind of helping for my own understanding as to why we've, you know, how we've gotten to this situation, and how to elevate that in our thinking. So certainly, you know, I tend to listen to podcasts and audible books when I'm on the road doing various things, and so Let Them is one of them, and that's been very eye-opening in itself, just for me personally. And then, you know, I'm really, as my background is technology, and I will always be some kind of a tech nerd, and so I'm doing some background, you know, courses, actually, online courses on AI, and I'm finding that extremely interesting because it's developing so fast, and it's good for a person to understand the concepts, but also as a board member, how it applies strategically to things that are happening in the board. And so, you know, not necessarily you know, operationally, but more how it can impact strategy, right? And so to me it's a really interesting development, especially since people do rely on me for my technology background. So I need to keep that up.
Absolutely.
And so certainly it's of huge interest to me, and I tend to, you know, I'm trying a few things out right now, and it's been fascinating. So those are kind of some of the the things that I'm focused on right now.
Wonderful, thank you. Yeah, it's interesting because I'm an early adopter with technology, and boy, has that caused me some pain over the years. But I can't seem to change that because
Yeah.
I love to know what's new and what's going on in the world of technology. So
Same.
we've got that in common, and I'm not that patient, so we have that in
Oh
common
yeah.
too.
Welcome.
So, again, thank you for both of you for joining me. You've shared a ton of nuggets for our listeners, and what I heard loud and clear though was ethics, integrity came back several times in our conversation. So, that's just the foundation of everything else that people do. So, thanks for your time, and good luck with all the endeavors that you're working on in the future.
Good. Thanks,
Well,
Oliver.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Oliver. It's just been a real pleasure.
Wonderful. You've been listening to the Business in Calgary podcast powered by Sonic Coaching. Watch for our next episode in a couple of weeks. Thank you, everyone.